and hello and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast, the end of year awards special, where we've got no cards to talk about, but we're going to look at the year as a whole. We're going to talk about some fantastic UFC fights, cards, fighters that deserve special mentions, go through all of the awards, talk a little bit of BS and crap as we always do, and I'm sure there's going to be some big differences of opinion. We've got a full house today. I am obviously here, as is Sylvester and Josh, but we have got Tom from Tom Reacts making a guest appearance. How are you getting on today, Tom?
Yeah, not bad, mate, not bad. I'm a little bit stoned, not going to lie.
As we all are. As we all are.
Is there a coffee, Tom, to get rid of the stone?
Yeah.
It's a process.
I'll be honest, I'm not prepared for today's meeting whatsoever. It's been a pretty...
Neither are we.
But yeah.
We're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat.
The beautiful thing about doing it twice a week is no one expects you to really prepare for it. We just fly by the seat of our pants.
Oh, mate, wait until... If we start making money from this and doing a daily show, we'll just be never prepared. It'll be fantastic. Just people showing up and just being like, what's going on?
But just doing Adam Carolla, just do it drunk.
How are you going to do a daily show? Are you going to talk about the same fight for like 7 days?
Other people do it.
I just think that as soon as we hit 100 viewers, we milk it for everything it's worth.
Wow.
100 subscribers, sorry. Once we hit that milestone.
Okay.
Big dreams here at the channel.
Shower.
What was that, Sly?
How far are we from our target?
Of 100 subscribers, I think we are 62 away.
Oh, wow.
Get the fuck out. All right. Okay, I'm gonna bump that up to 140 then.
No, I want to see you milk it. I want you to work it like a fucking cow, mate.
We're talking utter nonsense. Yeah.
Now, little heads up, I am in an isolation situation over Christmas, so my Wi-Fi is not terrific, but we are going to make the best of this. And I've got all the different categories that we will be handing out our Split Awards to here. Where else to start but with Male Fighter of the Year? The candidates that I've got nominated so far, feel free to add any others that you feel I've left off. Kamaru Usman, 3 title fight wins, 2 knockouts, once against Masvidal, once against Burns, obviously gets the decision win against Covington. Oliveira, just the 2 wins, but obviously wins the vacant belt and then beats Poirier to become unquestionable champion. I've also put on this list Glover Teixeira. Now, admittedly, just the 1 fight, but hell, the guy's 42 and he won a belt. Let's give some love for that. Cyril Gunn. Obviously, 3 wins, one of them being for an interim belt, set up for a huge fight. And then, chuck this one, he's only had 2 fights, but one of the best performances of the year, the other one of the fights of the year, Max Holloway as a nominee as well. First things first, is there any nominees or people that I haven't put on the list that are crying out to you guys? Josh, I'll go to you first.
You should probably come to me last, because I'm going to say, it's a nice list, but the truth is, you do the first name, you say Usman, and then everything else is just no one else had a year as good as Usman, did they? No one went from best in their division to really making a strong case for absolute GOAT in their weight class in 1 year like he has. This has been his best year to date, and it's a year that is drawn inevitable and very fair GSP comparisons. So how the fuck do you give it to anyone else?
I know how the fuck you give it to anyone else, but okay.
Go on.
I mean, of course.
You say O'Malley, I'm going to get sucked.
It wasn't my first pick, but I was surprised you didn't put O'Malley in the just in the nominees, as an extra. I'm not saying that he was going to be my first pick. My second pick was actually Cyril Gunn. I think we can all agree that the guy's had an insane year, not just in terms of winning fights, but in the fact that he's pretty much not been hit for a whole year. It's insane. But no, for me personally, it's on the list. It's Oliveira. I mean, 2 of probably the best fights of the year. And when you think about how far he's come, he's also put those fights on top of an excellent winning record. I think he's got the longest winning streak now in the UFC ever. Is that correct or not? I can't remember the stats.
Not ever.
I thought Mighty Mouse would have him by 1 or 2 right now.
In fact, Usman's is currently longer.
Is it?
Usman's undefeated in the UFC. He's like 13
Yeah.
and 0 in the UFC, maybe even 14.
Okay, then take that away. But I will stay with Oliveira just because of the level of the fighters he was fighting, especially in the first one when he got the title. So yeah, for me it's definitely Oliveira. But he was already on your list, Matt.
Tom, what's your thoughts? Any names that we're missing off, and who's the name that stands out for you if that is the completed list?
Yeah, no, I'm with Josh. Kamaru Usman's definitely solidified the division, and 3 big fights this year.
And the best 3 guys in his weight class.
Yeah. All valid
No.
number 1 contenders in their own rights at the point
Yeah.
that they had their title shot.
Like Charlie Olive's beat, cream of the crop. But people are still asking questions about matchups in the top 5, other guys at 155. Whereas with Usman, it's like definitive. It's like until Chimaev gets the title shot, I don't think anyone's really going to see anything as being too close. There are weird puzzles, like if Wonderboy could get on a win streak and get a title shot, maybe, but like, just don't really see that happening now. Yeah, fuck. Jesus Christ, like he really did. Burns, Masvidal, Covington. As much as I think the guy's a twat, he's an outstanding fighter. Usman has had the year of years. He's really cemented his legacy this year. It's got to be Usman, right?
I think if we're putting this to a vote, which it sounds like you're arguing for a vote,
I'm not. I'm just waiting for everyone to agree with me.
Okay, well, I'll agree. I'll definitely agree with it. I mean, I'll take Oliveira because it feels like the opposition was more on his level, if that makes sense, than Usman, who feels that he was so way above everyone else he fought. So that's the reason why I took Oliveira. Yeah. But otherwise, yeah, of course, Usman has been the fucking GOAT this year. So, yeah.
Well, I'll say this as well. I think if the Oliveira versus Tony fight had happened in January of this year rather than December of last year, and Oliveira had 3 wins in a calendar year, I think there would be a much stronger argument. I still think you have to say as well, though, that it's not just 3 fights. It's 3 5-round fights, different level of preparation, title fights, I think that really stands out. And he's gone from being a dominant champion in his division to the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, which I think has to be respected. One little note before we move on. I think it's kind of interesting. Obviously, last year we had Kevin Holland, who kind of entered the Fighter of the Year conversations, although not being as highly ranked or high profile, with 5 wins in a calendar year. We didn't really have that in the men's division this year. There wasn't that sort of lower ranked guy that kind of sped through and sort of got that kind of like 4 or 5 wins to put him in contention.
COVID has made it very, very hard for people at the top of the tree to get a lot of fights in. However, it has kind of opened up the opportunity for people kind of lower down and not ranked to get quick turnarounds and get a lot of fights, filling out like the prelims and so on. Which is actually AJ McKee, I would give like half a nod to for Fighter of the Year. But because I looked it up because I was going to put him in for best sub. And then I realized that Darian Caldwell fight was actually, I think, December or November of last year. Just completely fucked me up there.
So,
like, yeah.
I think we can all agree, and we shall crown the male fighter of the year, Kamaru Usman, his official MMA Split Award. Congratulations, Kamaru Usman. You are more than welcome to come on the podcast and collect it in person. But we shall see if that happens. We move on to Female Fighter of the Year. Now, the candidates and the nominees this year for Female Fighter of the Year that I'm putting forward is Valentina Shevchenko. That's the end of the nominees.
You're not putting Rose Namajunas on your list.
What the fuck? What does Rose Namajunas do? Is she bake bread? Is she a fucking baker?
I love Rose. Rose is awesome, and she had a great year with 2 wins. But Valentina Shevchenko decimated 3 opponents and made it look scary easy.
Yeah, but again, the argument is again,
some of those fights were scary easy though. Whereas Rose had
amateurs.
Yeah, so Rose had the knockout, right? Knockout of the year contender to dethrone Weili Zhang, and then had a really good, really competitive fight with, arguably one of the best ever strawweights that we've seen. So, yeah, for me, I think Rose Namajunas. just kind of, I'm leaning that way. Also, I would say, you know, there have been other women that have done very well this year. Kayla Harrison. You know, there are some other ones I could potentially put on the list. But yeah, I think Rose Namajunas for sure. That's my pick. That's who I've gone with.
Josh?
Yep.
Do you want a couple? Because I think you and I are going the same way.
He's used the line. He's used the line.
Merry Christmas, Josh.
Tom, please tell me that you're
I love
more
you,
on
bro.
my side with this one. Where are you leaning on this one?
So I'm actually going to go for something proper different. I'm actually going to go for Juliana Pena for that one win alone. I mean,
Hey, it's a good shout.
Technically two. I think she won towards the start of the year. She beat Sarah McMahon.
Yeah, but that win over Amanda Nunes just did it for me. That was just savage.
Okay, well, I think Julia Pena is going to be given an award. Not that I want to spoil anything, a little further down the line. So I think she's going to get some love on this show. I still got to stand by my pick, Valentina, but it looks like I'm going to be voted out on this one, which means that Rose Namajunas, for her back-to-back wins against Zhang Weili and recapturing and defending the strawweight belt, is the MMA Split Female Fighter of the Year. Well done, Rose. Didn't see that one coming. We've already had a surprise.
I did.
Well,
I wrote this down yesterday.
We move to the fun one. Knockout of the year. The contenders I'm putting forward are Usman's knockout of Jorge Masvidal, Rose's head kick knockout of Zhang Weili, Bahamondes spinning wheel kick to the face knockout of Roosevelt Roberts, Yuri Prochaska's spinning elbow knockout of Dominic Reyes. Those are all the official UFC certified candidates for knockout of the year. But to give Bellator some love, I have also added Sergio Pettis' knockout of Horiguchi, the spinning back fist. First things first. Guys, I'll start with Tom on this one.
Are we not putting Oliveira Gaethje on the list?
Well, this is the thing. Add your nominees now. Tom, any nominees that you want to put on that list?
Not really. I'm going to go with Yuri Prochaska on this one, just because the guy's a savage, and that knockout was brilliant. But not just that.
It was.
The whole fight was just mental. So, yeah, let's give it to him.
So you want to add, Josh, if I understand, Oliveira's knockout of Gaethje?
I'm not going to lie. I've gone for Yuri Prochaska. But I think it's a very good year for knockouts. I think it's real tight in this category. And I'm just saying there's so many we could add on. Like the Bahamondes one was beautiful and it looks great as a highlight. I just remember the context, just kind of how lazy or tired and sloppy things were just before that. Sometimes it makes it better. Sometimes it makes it worse. For me, I was kind of leaning more towards how hittable Roberts was rather than how excellently executed the technique was. Whereas Prochaska, yeah, that was just fucking sweet Jesus. That was just a thing of beauty. Oh, do you know what else? I can't believe the UFC haven't got this, but Sandhagen's flying knee on Edgar.
Didn't even think about that.
That was this year.
Didn't even think
that was this year, not a year before.
Didn't even think about that.
Because I'd kind of say that's my number two, if I'm honest. But it's
That's a good
irrelevant
point.
because I'm saying the same as Tom. I'm going Yuri Prochaska.
Sly, weigh in on this one. What's your feelings?
Even if I don't care if the opposition was shit and the fight was in the prelims, it has to be, for me, it has to be the Spanish guy, the fat Spanish guy, 360 kick, like
Chris Barnett.
Is that his name?
Chris Barnett.
Yeah.
Like, that for me was like, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Like, there's no reason this guy should be able to kick higher than anyone's waist, let alone spin and then kick someone in the face. Like, no, for me, that is by far the knockout of the year. Of course, yeah. I don't know why we're even having this discussion. If we really put all them down, surely you think this one is the best one. And if I don't know, for me, it was
because Jean Vellante. When you started saying, even if the opponent was shit, and I was like, I hope he's not talking about Roosevelt Roberts because it's really unfair. I just said the man was tired. But yeah, that's why I didn't even think of the Chris Barnett one. It was a beautiful knockout. You make a very good point. But I think you answered your own question. Jean Vellante is the answer. That's why no one else wanted to consider that one.
Can we say that one of the best characters that we've seen in general in terms of personality this year in a fight. His post-fight speech, where he's saying that he knows that he looks in the mirror, he's not 170 pounds. But he tells himself, he believes he is 170 pounds. There is no science that can deny that. The man will fly. My pick was really different. I was going for Usman over Masvidal, and I went fully on who you do it to. Masvidal, never been knocked out in his UFC career, not like that, and you send him into the fucking nether realm. Oh, I'm going to be outvoted on this one, but 100%, I think, just in terms of pure technique, straight down the money, missile aimed at the man's chin in a title fight to end a rivalry.
It's impossible to pick between these. And like I said, it was a really close list. It was hard making a pick. I think we need to give it a three-way tie.
No,
even if it does mean putting
I respect the vote.
KO in there, I'm okay with it.
No, I respect the vote, and you guys have got Yuri Prochaska winning 2 votes against 1 for Chris Barnett and 1 for Usman. So well done, Yuri Prochaska. You're getting a title fight in 2022, and you're winning an MMA Split Award Knockout of the Year.
Oh, he is?
Yep, Tom and Josh both voted for him. We voted for different people.
He's getting a title shot next year?
Yeah, he's fighting Glover next year.
Shot, yeah, Glover's even brought in King Mo.
Mate, wow. When is it? You know which date?
Not officially signed, but that's the fight that's going to be. It's probably in the summer.
They even earmarked it for a card.
Oh, sorry, Tom's trying to speak. What did you say, mate?
Sorry.
I'm now saying, who's Yan going to fight?
Yan's going to fight Rakic. They both seem pretty down for it. Nah, they both seem pretty down for it. They both had like their own mini press conference on Bisping's podcast. So I think it's not officially booked, but that's the fight that it's going to be. They're both down to do it. I think it's the most sensible fight. It puts both of them back in the title picture with a win. Man, I got to be honest. I think Yuri beats Glover, but I would love to see Yan versus Yuri.
I don't know. If Rakic puts together a good performance against Yan, I'd be pretty hyped up for Rakic against the winner either way.
I'm not sold on Rakic yet, but we'll see. Let's move on so that we can get through all of these before Sly has to make his exit. Next one is submission of the year. I think there's probably going to be some extra candidates that you guys suggest, but to start things off, I've gone for Brandon Moreno's submission of Figueiredo to win the flyweight belt, Khamzat Chimaev's submission of the Leech, Makhachev's submission of Dan Hooker, Glover's submission of Yan to win the light heavyweight belt, Luque's submission of Tyron Woodley, Pena's submission of Muniz, and Oliveira's submission of Poirier. So I've put quite a few candidates there. Tom, where's your mind at for sub?
I don't know, because that Luque one with Woodley was just so needed.
It was a hell of a fight before it as well.
That's what I'm saying, and he was wobbling, and if he didn't get that submission, he probably not would have lost, but he would have been in trouble.
Do you guys say that's better than the one against Maverick, against Chiesa?
That's a good point, actually.
Was it not just the same submission?
I mean, well, yeah, but except Chiesa, was threatening with submission on Luque, reversed the position, and then submitted Maverick, who is not an easy man to submit. I think it's just Kevin Lee and Luque that have done it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to be like, when you started saying Luque, I thought you were going to say Luque submitting Chiesa.
Okay.
But they're both good subs. Like it's like you could definitely put both of them on the list.
Well, it's an interesting one. Like, do you prioritize like the action that's set up, or are you going to look at it more in terms of like pure grappling technique to set it up? It's like the Brandon Moreno one. I think it feels like it had, I don't know, was the standout one for me. But to be honest, like Figgy was done by that third round. That submission was just an inevitability.
I know. I got to be honest. I've definitely given more weight to kind of technical proficiency and the surprise factor. Mine isn't even on your list. I've gone with Andre Muniz submitting Jacare. Although I easily could have gone with the Anders one as well. But yeah, got to have more respect for your boy.
Yeah.
But you know, just getting the armbar in that weird position and just being able to kind of make that position his own. He's kind of doing like some Ryan Hall level shit, you know. I had to go with the Muniz submitting Jacare. Everyone was surprised. It was kind of it's kind of a freaky fucking thing. Yeah, I thought that whole sequence was just cool as shit. And then he showed he wasn't a one-trick pony. Pulled it off again in the same year.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Makhachev against Tucker, just for sheer domination and getting the verbal tap.
Who doesn't love a Kimura?
Tom?
Thing is, are we going for the person or the fight itself?
The submission, well, you can pick it on whatever
So,
criteria.
yeah.
So, like, if you
I'm
went
gonna
for,
go-
like, Oliveira or Moreno, you're prioritizing, like, the event or the situation that they got the submission in. If you're going for something like what's annoying with subs is we haven't got anything flashy. We haven't got like the Jimmy Flick triangle or like the Bryce Mitchell's twister or something that just really stands out. So it's a hard one, mate. That's why there's so many nominations.
It has to be for me. I'll let you know so we don't have to talk more than this. I'm going to take Oliveira. Total fight. You stand up, submit the guy on his back. Fucking insane. Climbs up it. Really, no. For me, that's. And yeah, of course, it's not the most amazing submission, but it's still an unbelievable submission at the top of the game. So for me, it has to be the Oliveira one.
I'll go with Luca then, just because what a year he's had in terms of submissions.
In that case, we have a four-way tie, so I don't know what we do.
Oh, we give it to Brandon Moreno, I guess.
Well,
Seems about as fair as anything.
You know what? I'm happy to give it to Oliveira. Oliveira's had a hell of a year and he's not standing to win any awards, and I think that's a crying shame. So I'm happy to go with Sly's pick. Give some love to your boy. And
who is Moreno? That's right, Josh. Who's Moreno? That's not the one who won this right now.
Moreno deserves some love as well, but we'll give him
What it's
some love.
worth, I voted for Andre Muniz. I just figured it's such a tight category, same as the knockouts. Whatever way you cut it.
Very true. Very true. Well, congratulations to Oliveira. Well deserved. All right. This one is getting a little fun. Fight of the year. Candidates: Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez, Chandler versus Gaethje, Volkanovsky versus Ortega, Sandhagen versus Peter Yan, Sandhagen versus TJ, and Shane Burgos versus Billy Quarantillo. A little bit of recency bias with the last one.
I don't
Did
understand.
you say Gaethje Chandler?
Correct.
All right, good. That's how I'm voting. then.
Sly, why
Yeah,
don't
that one.
why don't you start us off on this one, since Josh is Gaethje Chandler.
Is this fight of the year?
Fight of the year.
Yeah.
Oh, Chandler against Oliveira. It doesn't need to be a 5 round. You don't need to have 5 rounds. You need to have enough. You have to have. I think for it to be fight of the year, it has to be more than 1 round, because otherwise that's just knockout of the year or submission of the year. But for
Or
me,
round of
that
the year.
was per second, like as in like if you're timing it like entertainment per second, Oliveira against Chandler by far. By far.
Sly, is there any answer you're going to give that isn't in some way connected to Charles Oliveira?
Yes, Rose was one of my choices.
Oh, yeah.
And the fat Spanish guy, so clearly advice.
Tom, add some balance to this situation.
So I'm actually going to go for Edson Barboza versus Shane Burgos, because
That was a mental fight. That was
Yeah,
a mental
That
fight.
late knockout.
and just feel I've never seen a knockout like that ever. Just it was so delayed and it was so wicked, and I had a bet on that fight and I needed Edson to win, and just the whole thing just makes it fight of the year for me.
Sly, if I was to tell you that there's a category where your Oliveira versus Chandler fight might be more appropriately nominated, would you have any consideration of thinking that? Because here's the thing, nobody's mentioned Chandler versus Gaethje was nuts. Let's just confirm that. I rewatched it 2 days ago. That was mental. It had everything.
I'm using that one for another category.
Okay. I also think Volkanovsky versus Ortega, the fight was at its best in 1 round, and aside from that was fairly one-sided, but it still had great moments, signs of toughness. And technically, I want to give some love to Sandhagen versus Peter Yan, because that is one of the most technically brilliant fights I've ever seen. Even though it maybe didn't have those big action moments in the same way. The level of skill, the number of strikes landed, the shots eaten, the technique, the spinning stuff, the flying knees. And then obviously Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez was an insanely good fight. I think the only thing that fight loses is being in the apex compared to some of these fights where you had the whole crowd cheering and you had all of that energy. I do feel it makes it hard to compare them when they're sort of next to each other. You know, you think...
Yeah, so Aaron, which way did you go, Matt?
I'm going Gaethje Chandler. I can't not. It's 3 rounds of 2 guys
fun
that
fight.
basically decided they prioritized entertainment and proving something to themselves over winning. And it led to just one of the best fights I've ever seen. The best 3-round fight I've ever seen. But all the other fights on this list, we've had some fucking amazing fights. I mean, Costa versus Vettori was a great fight. Max's first fight against Calvin Kattar was just an absolute stunner of a fight, of a performance. The McGregor Poirier fights were great fun. We've had a whole the Molina fight against Korea Alai, you know, looking at some of these prelim fight wars that were just fantastic. So it's been a great year for fights. But with that, I think we beat these guys 2 votes to anything else. Gaethje Chandler is the fight of the year. Round of the year next. This is where I think you're going to have...
We're slipping new categories in now. I haven't got round of the year.
Oh, well, I've got nominations for you, Josh. Don't worry. Poirier versus...
Fly bastard.
The nominees for round of the year. Poirier versus Oliveira, round 1. Chandler versus Oliveira, round 1. Max versus Yair, round 1. Volkanovsky versus Ortega, round 3. Chandler versus Gaethje, round 1. And Chandler versus Gaethje, round 3. Anyone standing out that I've missed off that you guys want to put forward?
What was the second one?
Hard to say off the top of my head. Because, like, I've got to be honest, I'm not great at remembering specific rounds. Like, after the fact, I kind of look at the fight as a whole. I'm going to have to sit this one out. I really haven't got a clue.
I can talk some through. Tom, have you got any standouts or anything, any rounds that you can think of that I didn't include?
What about Oliveira versus Chandler round 2?
It lasted 18 seconds.
That was a very good round.
I need a little bit more than that to put it on the list.
Tom's more around for a good time than around for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily bad logic.
Okay, so...
It was 18 seconds long.
Here's my logic with this. So we've got, if we look at this, Poirier versus Oliveira, round 1, they beat the fucking shit out of each other.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That was an amazing round. Chandler versus Oliveira, round 1. Literally mental across all phases of MMA. Just constant switching between who you think's got the advantage, and then it would switch, and then obviously, you know, Oliveira surviving at the end. Nuts. Max versus Yair, round 1. Yair Rodriguez looked unbeatable, and Max was landing, and it was technical, and it was terrifying. Volkanovsky versus Ortega, the submissions... I think he spent a minute being choked across 2 different submissions in total. Then the ground and pound made it look like Ortega's going to be knocked out any moment. That just constant switch of emotion was absolutely crazy. And then the first round between Chandler and Gaethje, nuts. Third round, I didn't think was that good when I watched it live, but rewatching it, there's just so many moments where, like, Chandler just doesn't give a shit anymore. He's just getting hit, and he's fucking doing the come on, give me more sign to Gaethje. There was one moment he just completely dropped his hands and started pointing at the commentary booth whilst walking forward, getting hit.
It's entertaining. I don't know if that necessarily makes for a good round, though. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, as the culmination to the events beforehand, it feels good, but on its own, it doesn't quite have the same.
Well, no, more like, you know, it's great when guys or athletes are willing to go out on their shield. But when you know that you're going out on your shield, there is that element of you have conceded, you have lost before the end. Like,
yeah, I
don't know. For me, it takes something away more than adds.
Well, do you want to put your vote in first, Josh?
Oh, no. Honestly, I can't do it off the top of my head. If you guys can't pick 2 between the 3 of you, if you can't get 2 votes between the 3 of you, I'll just cast a decider.
Fair enough. Tom, what's your round of the year?
Chandler, Oliveira, round 1.
Sly?
No, I'll go with Tom on this one.
Chandler versus Oliveira round 1 is our round
Done.
of the year. And I know that you've got to shoot off quite soon, Sly, but I'll try and get through these next ones a little bit more quickly. Card of the year. Candidates, UFC 261, first card with fans back, 3 title fights. Shevchenko looking scary, Rose getting the knockout, Usman knocking out Masvidal. You had the whole thing with Weidman's leg. You had a great prelims. You've got UFC 267, obviously comes up Chimaev. There was the Dan Hooker thing. Tuivasa fought. You had, oh God, what's it? The Peter Yan, Corey Sandhagen fight. Glover becoming champ. 268, you've got the Chandler Gaethje fight, you've got the Usman Covington fight, you've got the rematch with Rose and Zhang Weili, Alex Pereira knockout, the 6 knockouts all in a row, UFC 269, obviously you've got Poirier Oliveira, you've got Pena winning the belt, you've got, and a whole series of great fights on that as well. My thoughts straight away, I'm just going to say this, 268 is unbeatable. It's one of the best cards I've ever seen. Tom?
269.
269.
The one that just happened was insane, no? I mean, maybe it's because it's happened closest, but for me, that was the one. 269, no, that was?
Yep.
Yeah.
We got a split, so they both share the award. 268 and 269. You both get split card of the year, which kind of makes sense because we are the MMA Split, and we have split the award on this one. How about that? Comeback of the year, best comeback of the year. Candidates I've got is Paddy Pimblett, Clay Guida, the Cuban Missile Crisis against Maki Pitolo, Charles Oliveira against Michael Chandler, Merab Dashvili against Marlon Moraes, and GM3 in his last fight against Stoltzfus. Slide, do you want to go first?
I'd like to add to that. Oh, sorry, can I add a couple of nominees there?
Yeah, of course.
So did you say Sergio Passos against Horiguchi?
Did not know, but we can put that one on.
Chris Curtis, Phil Hawes.
Nice.
And you said Oliveira against Gaethje, right? Against Chandler, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Sly, I'll start with you on this one because I know you got to bounce.
Oliveira.
Tom?
Oliveira, 100%.
Josh? Oliveira. We're all agreed. Oliveira getting more love. He is the comeback fighter of the year. Biggest upset of the year. The nominees are Juliana Pena and Anthony Hernandez against Rodolfo Vieira. The second one I'm just putting out of respect. I think we all know what the upset of the year is.
Yeah.
Pena, outstanding. No one saw that coming. You lost one guy $319,000, which he bet to make 20 grand. Not the smart move. Not the smart move. Biggest disappointments of the year. This is a bit more of an open question, but I've got things like the interim heavyweight belt, no Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal, Nick Diaz's return, the decline of Stephen Thompson, Aljamain Sterling's entire life. Aljo, for me, is the biggest disappointment of the year by far. Anyone else can add anything that they want.
Yeah, you're missing John Jones, just in general. And my actual pick, like I submit as a nominee here, is the AJ McKee Pitbull title fight. That was a bit of a letdown. Not in terms that it wasn't a good performance from McKee, but I was so excited for that fight, and then it was just over before it began.
Tom, what was your biggest disappointments of the year?
Not seeing John Jones.
It's a good pick.
Or seeing him in the wrong light.
Exactly that.
Sly?
Conor McGregor enjoying himself.
Yeah, that can be
Actually, yeah, I'm
understandable.
going to go Conor McGregor. I'd like seeing Conor McGregor snap his ankle is just the best thing ever.
But that's not a disappointment to you, Tom. That's an enjoyment.
Oh, no, that's an enjoyment. Sorry. Yeah, I'll stick with the first thing I said.
I'll say Bones. I'll say Bones to give him the award. Him not fighting at all and is a joke. And obviously the arrest.
Well, only fighting his wife.
Only fighting his wife. She wasn't fighting back. Right, we're almost through all of these guys. Debut of the year. Candidates are Alex Pereira, Paddy Pimblett, Michael Chandler, and then I've also added Molina as well. Jeff Molina had a fucking awesome debut fight. Any other names that you guys want to chuck in? Who were the new faces? Ian Gary was impressive.
I haven't picked him, but I'm just sort of throwing him out there.
So was the award this time? So I didn't hear the award name.
Debut. UFC debut.
Chandler.
Yeah. I was kind of just doing general MMA debut, but I've got to be honest. I don't think anyone topped like the UFC debuts this year. Like Horiguchi would have done it, but it just didn't go his way.
I feel like Chandler made about as impressive a debut as you can right at the start of the year. Knocks out the number 5 guy in the way that he does. Turns himself from who's this Bellator guy into title contender 4 months later. It's a pretty damn good debut.
For you, he was who's this Bellator guy. For a lot of us, we did know. But yeah, man, I had it between Chandler and Pimblett. I went with Pimblett. Paddy the baddie all the way.
I'm going Chandler. Tom, I think you get the tiebreaker on this one.
See, I would have gone with Pimblett, but the guy was getting pieced up in that fight. Like he was quite lucky. I wouldn't say lucky to get a knockout, but he just didn't really. He was not the best.
You can tell he's a grappler.
Yeah. Who was the guy? Who's the first guy? Chandler. I'll go with Chandler.
Chandler gets our debut of the year. That is all of the awards that I had written down. But you can add. Feel free, guys. Feel free.
I'm just going to add one award because I think it's worth it. Post-match of the year, as in either celebration, the interview, just the post-match of the year, from a winner or from a loser.
Oh, it's either got to be, for me, a candidate will either be like Tai Tuivasa doing shoeies, or
no. What's Dustin's wife called?
Jolie.
Jolie. I was gonna say Joelle. I knew it was wrong. Jolie after the first McGregor win. That's a bad man. Oh wait, no. Oh wait, it's not the best after a win, but Cheyenne. I don't want to say Bays, but I've forgotten what her maiden name is. I've forgotten what she's using now.
Oh, she was Cheyenne Bays at this point in time.
Yeah. I'll follow you home, bitch.
That was a great line.
That's got my vote.
Yeah.
There's so many. I mean, there's so many.
There's too many. There's too many.
I'm thinking of Bassa, obviously. But then I thought about Conor McGregor when he lost, and he's still insulting him in the interview with Joe Rogan. When Joe Rogan went to interview him, and it's still like so angry, and he's just like, he shouldn't have won.
I sat on the ground.
But I think there's two that I really enjoyed. That won't, so let's say, eccentric, but it's my number 2 is probably be the Charles Oliveira when he wins a title, and you can see that man has been going for that title for so long, and it's quite when he goes running into the crowd, and it's like, I thought that was really nice. But I think I'm going to go for a more, let's say, soft approach, and I think I'm going to pick Rose. I think her winning, her interview, and everything was quite touching. I think Rose was for me the post-match of the year.
Well, let's change this, and instead of sort of say this, let's say, what was your favorite media moment from the UFC? Either an interview, a post-fight, a press conference thing. Tom, what would be your sort of media favorite moment that stands out for you?
Yeah, I'll probably go with the McGregor when Joe Rogan was interviewing and still going.
So good.
That was amazing. Like the memes that did was just incredible.
I've got to say, I think mine is every interview that Marvin Vettori or Costa did during fight week when it became obvious that Costa was going to refuse to make weight, because you have to understand the context, but just to watch like this guy just completely refuse to understand why what he's doing is complete bullshit and causing everyone this massive headache, while the angriest Italian man you've ever met in your life is just losing his shit over it. It is honestly my favorite moment. And even just watching Vettori when he was doing the build up to Adesanya get so frustrated. I don't know. I don't like Vettori, but I find it really amusing watching him get annoyed by things. That just makes me deeply happy.
Wow.
Josh, favorite media moment, what would it be?
All right, I'll go with Jolly Poirier on this one then.
Nice. And here's a question just to kind of round things up before a couple of the guys have to make.
I was going to say just real quick. I'm pretty sure I put it in the group chat. Did anyone else do best signing?
I didn't. I thought about that, but I kind of just ended up mixing that with debut.
No, because it's not really from the fighters' point of view. It's from the organisation. So I had it down to I can't really pick. So I thought if I give you guys my nominations,
Yeah, go on.
Kaiji Horiguchi being fully signed and re-signed by Bellator, and obviously Iron Mike for the UFC.
It's got to be Iron Mike.
Two of them. Well,
you think how active he is with media. You think how great a job he does promoting the fights. He's not just sort of been a good, entertaining fighter. He's driven the media, all that kind of stuff really, really well. He's been a great spokesperson for them.
He's injected a lot of life into that division, but it is an already very deep division. Whereas Horiguchi has, really cemented himself as one of the best bantamweights and flyweights ever. Has come into Bellator and put in one hell of a performance, sold one hell of a fight, and really fucking put over Sergio Pettis. Sergio Pettis is like a really credentialed champion now. And it really just kind of goes to show what quality Bellator really do have, even at the lower weights.
Yeah.
Plus, now they've got the Grand Prix coming up. I just think Horiguchi is as important. I really can't pick between the two of them. But yeah, I think you talk about like being media friendly, being English speaking, immediately gives you plus points. And then obviously Mike, as cheesy as he fucking is, like you say, he's very active. Brings a lot of eyes, a lot of attention, and he's very media friendly. So I can't pick between them.
Well, I'm picking Chandler either way. Sly?
Right.
Yeah, Chandler.
Tom?
What's this one about?
Best signing, like from an organizational perspective. Like, if the UFC are looking at like the talent that they signed this year, or Bellator are looking at their talent, who's the guy that's given them the best amount of business?
It's only between Bellator and the UFC.
No. You think about anyone that signed a contract, took a big step up, got a little promotion in the MMA world.
All right.
Like, which signing do you think is the best?
It has to be MMA, not just every fighting organization.
Has to be MMA,
I mean, if you can think of a different one,
I can't pick Jake Paul.
You cannot pick Jake Paul.
You can't pick Jake Paul.
Don't you have to leave? Haven't you got something to do?
Tom, shoot, what was your suggestion?
I'll skip this one. I'm not sure. Probably Chandler.
You had a suggestion though. You had something you were going to say.
Jake Paul.
Oh.
Wait, is that
Chandler
two votes for Jake Paul?
Chandler gets it. Chandler to the UFC.
Chandler gets it.
Best signing of the year.
One last question I've got before we move on to just sort of chatting some movie bullshit, and Sly maybe has to shoot off.
Yeah, I need to shoot off, guys. I love you guys. Have a good New Year's. Enjoy yourselves. I hope that Tom and have a nice COVID trip and that it's not too painful. So yeah, it should be fun. Cool, guys.
Thanks for your time, mate. Take care.
Bye.
So last question just for the three of us. What is your most anticipated fight of next year that can either have already been booked or hasn't been booked yet, but you want to see? Tom, I'll start with you.
Got Garner versus Ngannou. See, I mean, it's already been booked, but that's going to be. Honestly, I can't predict it. I don't know if Garner is going to be too quick for him or Ngannou is just going to knock him out in round one. I just don't know. I kind of feel like if Ngannou doesn't knock him out in round one, Garner will probably win it.
Yeah, I kind of feel that as well. Have you seen the sparring footage between the two of them from years ago?
Yeah.
Gunn kind of has his way with it.
I've also read what Ngannou said about it, and also if I think about who's releasing the footage and why they're releasing the footage, kind of answers a lot of questions as to why that's the footage. You know? I mean, if they really spar together like so much that one of them really has one of the other's number, they're going to have a lot of footage. And in that weight class, you're going to have a lot of footage of Garn getting fucking bounced around as well. But we're never going to see it, you know, so fuck it. But yeah, sparring footage is always such a hard one to go off of. Especially when they're not teammates. It's someone that's coming on a camp and shit. Like, I really don't know how much I can trust sparring footage if we're just looking for like who the better fighter is or who's got the advantage. But Ngannou, I gotta say, man, I really feel like Ngannou's turned a corner as an MMA fighter. And I don't think he's necessarily like fucked once it gets outside the first round. I think with his ability to kind of mix in, like the takedowns, the cage control, and really use his size and strength. I'm excited. This is why I anticipate this fight the most, I think.
Well, the only thing
these guys are just so fucking good.
I think Ngannou's become more patient because he knows that he's got the nuclear bomb there. He doesn't need to rush it against high-level fighters. What I do think is that what Garn's been so good at on this run is freezing people. He's just so quick. He's so good at getting out. He's so good at changing angles that you end up like, look at what happened to Derek Lewis. He landed like 4 punches. He just got frozen. Volkov's an amazing striker. He got frozen. Jairzinho, he got frozen. And it's not even so much about tiredness. I think Garn wins that fight and makes it look really easy.
Wow.
Really, really easy. Because I don't think he gets hit. I really don't. Like, he'll get maybe hit once or twice. You got to deal with that. But I just think he's so quick. The technique difference between the two of them is just so monumental that I think Garn becomes the champ and stays the champ for a long time. The only guy I think Garn would have, I'd like to see kind of pass as well, is I think someone like a Stipe Miocic, who's powerful but very technically sound, very well-rounded. That would be an interesting challenge because I think...
And has the wrestling.
And also is quick enough. I think there was a real lack of speed with somebody like Volkov, even though he had the technique. And that sort of kind of made it, he couldn't really do what he needed to.
With Volkov, that really was the whole issue, was the speed and the athleticism. Not being able to close the distance, and when they were up close, not being able to fire his shots off quick enough, not being able to move quick enough. It really was a question of speed with Volkov. But yeah, you make a great point, especially when it came to like Biggie Boy and Derek Lewis. Although Derek Lewis is kind of prone to like getting frozen a bit, just because he's again patiently looking for that shot, not to the extent of like a Tyron Woodley, but is it going to be the Ngannou that went up against Derek Lewis? Is it going to be the Ngannou we saw in the second Miocic fight? I gotta say, I think he seems pretty switched on. He seems way more concerned and engaged with his career than at any other point where I've seen him. He's really trying to fucking negotiate with the UFC, which tells me he's fucking taking this seriously. He's really fucking all in on this. And yeah, it's exciting. Garn, way better stand-up fighter. Ngannou, way too fucking powerful. And I really want to see what he can do against someone that doesn't have a legitimate wrestling threat. And even then, he was able to defend Miocic's kind of entries and level changes, even though they weren't his best. How would he do against like the blades and stuff? I don't really know where Ngannou's at, but I just keep seeing these improvements. And I'm really fucking excited.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Other thing I want to chuck out that I'm looking forward to next year, really looking forward to Adesanya versus Whittaker too. A lot of the title fights they've got booked and that are about to be booked are really, really good. One thing I would say though, looking just to kind of change the conversation, one division I think that's looking very kind of unclear at the moment is welterweight. I think most of the other divisions you've got an idea of what the next matchup is, but who the fuck fights Usman next?
Yeah.
Well, either Edwards or they wait, and then maybe Chimaev has another fight in the meantime, or Bilal Muhammad gets another win. So they have options. It's just no options that Dana White really wants to take right now.
Yeah. Okay, final question before we wrap this up. How many of the current champions do you think are still champion at this point next year? Tom, I'll go to you first.
I mean, I think Yuri is going to be champion by the end of next year. He has to be. And I think Izzy will probably still be champion. So Usman, depending if he fights Chimaev. Oliveira, I don't know. It depends whether he fights Khabib's mate. What's his name?
Islam.
is that matchup.
And probably Brandon Moreno will still be champion. Rose Namajunas, I could still see her being champion. Same with Valentina. Pena will probably stick with that belt. Amanda Nunes might not fight her, probably won't fight her again. She'll stick with her belt. The only ones I see changing is it's light heavyweight and heavyweight probably.
Interesting. Josh, what's
I'd
your
say
thoughts?
light heavyweight, lightweight, bantamweight. I think flyweight, featherweight, welterweight, middleweight are all pretty tied up. I don't think any of the women. Wait, no, what am I talking about? I think that Pena Nunes rematch is going to happen. So I think Pena's going to lose her belt. That's going to be it for the women.
Wow.
I think there's going to be 6 new champions. I think Rose, Valentina, stay champ. I think Amanda or somebody else wins that belt at bantamweight in women. So I think one belt changes hand in ladies. But I think that Sterling loses his bantamweight belt. I think Volkanovsky loses his featherweight belt to either Max or Giga Chikadze. I think I could see Oliveira staying lightweight champ, but that Gaethje fight and the Makhachev fight is going to be touch and go. I'm actually going to, sorry, I think I did say that he would lose the belt. I do think he will lose the belt to one of those two. And then light heavyweight and heavyweight, I both think are going to change. So I think out of the 12 champs, we're going to have 6 new ones. That's my prediction. But here's an interesting thing for you. In 2020, I think only one belt changed hands. In 2021, there was there was like 4 or 5 people who won belts off a champion, which is pretty nuts.
Well, it's harder to get busy champions when fights keep falling apart because of COVID, and because scheduling's hard because of COVID, and training, traveling's hard because of COVID. So that doesn't surprise me too much. But fuck it. I think 6 is probably a good number for next year. And I know you guys will, we all want to wrap it up. Do you want to quickly do team of the year or coach of the year or anything? Or do you want to maybe touch on that next week?
Oh, fuck it, man. We could do a coach of the year. I would say for me,
I'm gonna leave you guys. I've got to head off, right?
Tom,
All right, Tom.
Thanks for your time, mate.
Happy New
Check
Year.
out his channel, Tom Reacts, when the UFC cards start again. Give him a like and subscribe there. Tom, thanks for your time.
Cheers, boys. Have a good one. Catch you in a bit.
So,
You too, bud.
dude, coach of the year, how can you look past Trevor Whitman?
Well, this is the thing, right? So I've got Trevor Whitman and to some extent Pat Barry. And then on the other side, I've got Javier Mendez and Habib. And I'm like, oh, kind of close. I probably lean towards Whitman, I guess.
It's a tricky one, though, because Whitman looks good because he coaches very few fighters. But the fighters that he coaches are elite and had elite years. So, but it's only 6 wins. AKA, it's still not that many guys, but Javier Mendez is having to coach many more fighters than Trevor Whitman is. So obviously you're going to have more losses, but obviously you're dealing with more fighters at different levels. I don't think it was a great year for the city kickboxing guys. Hooker had a rough year. I think they've all struggled a little bit, not so much with the coaching, but the fact that the coaches aren't all able to travel in the same way. The training's obviously been much more difficult for them to do. Every single Volkanovsky is the only one who didn't have a loss from that team this year.
Well, he's not really
Kai didn't as well.
Team. He just does camps there and some training there. It's kind of the same. This is like with Rose Namajunas. How much do I credit Whitman? How much do I credit Pat Barry? Most of the fighters at Team AKA, I'm like, how much do I credit Mendez? How much do I credit Habib? And I imagine you kind of got to treat it as like a team thing, a split.
And then you get to ATT, mate, where it's just like it's all about really who their specific coaches.
And they always have good years. This year, though, they had
a terrible year.
Poirier, Horiguchi, and Nunes all lose in the same week, the same weekend, all favoured. in
And
title
all
shots.
winning the first round.
Yeah, they haven't had a good year. Shit, it's. I'm gonna say Whitman because I
I'll
think
say Whitman.
you have fewer fighters. That's not like a criticism. That's like a strength. It's like a strategic kind of plus that you kind of gone for there, and it's worked out very, very well for him.
But also, it's the profile of the fights as well, man. His 3 fighters combined went 6-0, winning 1 belt and defending it, and defending another belt 3 times, and then winning a fight of the year, contending performance. You know, against the toughest of the tough. And in every single one of those performances, you can point to things that Whitman has done which helped them win that fight. You know, you think the Gaethje-Chandler fight, he's the one that allowed Gaethje to stay more composed while Chandler was just going for it and win those second 2 rounds, being more sensible. The Rose performances, so much of what's the good work is a combination of Trevor and Pat, but obviously working in tandem. And then with Usman, like the knockouts he's performing this year, he was not doing that when he was trained by Henry Hooft.
No, it's just weird because if you kind of like look at what's really working with his style right now, it kind of sounds like you're describing Henry Hooft's whole approach, but it was Trevor Whitman that brought it out of him. Or I guess maybe you could say it was like Burns that brought it out of him in a sense. But, you know, Whitman's going to get some of the credit.
Absolutely. Fuck me, he's a beast at the moment, Usman. Absolute monster. How long have we got until the next card? Was it mid-January or is it end of Jan?
Yeah, Jan 15th, I believe. But, well, I mean, shit, I don't know if there's like a Bellator or a Cage Warriors or something going on.
Oh, mate, have you seen what Ryzen...
I'm pretty sure there's Sweet Fight this week.
Have you seen what Ryzen are doing New Year's Eve?
No, actually, they do usually. They do some pretty tasty New Year's Eve cards. Where are they going?
Tenshin Nasukawa is fighting a 2-round special rules exhibition fight against Takanori Gomi.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of cool.
I just feel sorry for this poor kid, man. They did this to him 3 years ago against Mayweather and he got embarrassed. It's like he's such a talented fighter.
Yeah. Well, he got very fucked over in the Mayweather one. Like, didn't they massively like delay the whole thing by like fucking hours? Like the guy was gloves on, ready to go, and they fought like 3 hours after that. Something stupid like Mayweather kept pushing it back. Plus, didn't Mayweather change the rules like 100 fucking times on Fight Week? Whereas at least with the one with Gomi, like to be honest, it's set up for him to just kind of take his head off.
He's not very heavy though. Tension. You know, Takanori Gomi is still 170 pound man.
Well, really, he's a lightweight. He's just an old as fuck lightweight. If that's the weight they're fighting at, then like fair enough. But you know, Gomi was always like a versatile threat. I wouldn't say like his stand-up game's gonna like hold up well with a young, active, good, talented kickboxer.
Well, we're going to find out on December 31st.
I'm probably going to watch it.
Which is tomorrow.
What time is it on?
Well, it's Japanese times, mate, so I think it's a bit earlier in the day for us. I think it's like during the daytime, mate.
Oh, I'm definitely going to watch that.
I'll probably have it on when I'm pretending to work.
Yeah, I mean, I will watch this when all my work is done, or perhaps on my lunch break. Yeah, I don't know who's watching. I don't know who's subscribed. We've got 60-something subscribers. Yeah. Or
no, we've got
no.
We've got like 28 or 38 or something like that. We got room to grow, mate. We got room to grow.
I'm not meant to anything on here anymore.
So movies I've watched recently. Changing the subject across to movies. I saw The Witcher. Yeah, didn't like it as much as the first season.
You weren't impressed?
So here's my thing. The first season, I actually quite liked the narrative gap, like the fact that it's two different timelines. And because loads of time would pass in between episodes, each individual episode felt like it was much more its kind of own sort of contained story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So every episode felt kind of individual and stood out to me. Whereas with this season, there's a lot of episodes that feel like they just kind of fall into each other a little bit. There's a lot of Kaer Morhen, I don't really give too much of a shit about what was going on with Yennefer for a lot of it. I think I said this to you. I think she's really good when she's with Henry Cavill and they've got good chemistry, but I don't think that she is a great actress just on her own a lot of the time, which might be mean, but
Yeah, you did tell me you didn't like the actress. For me, I think she kind of nails it. I liked this season more, I think, for the same reason. I really loved that they picked key stories so that they could kind of establish the main characters, and at the same time they had everything going on with Siri. But I did enjoy just having the whole, here's Geralt and Ciri. We're not jumping around by like centuries at a time anymore. We're not jumping around by decades anymore. And even
I liked the
like,
Siri stuff.
Yeah, I find Jaskier kind of annoying sometimes, but I bought into it a lot more this season. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was eating way more edibles when I watched this
you know
second
what?
season.
I found him a little irritating in the first season, and then by like episode 4, I was really missing him. And then I was quite happy when he sort of came back into the storyline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's good. I think the casting's good. Like Vesemir, I think is really well cast. I think Ciri's really well cast. I think Henry Cavill nails it. Would have liked. I don't think the monster battles are that great though. I think that's one feeling. I thought all the best fight scenes from the first season were the more like hand-to-hand choreographed kind of combat, and there was a lot less of that this season and a lot more monster fights. But obviously, just because of what you've got to do with the monster fights, and you've got limitations there. That's one criticism I'd have as well. I would have liked a little bit more kind of like classic sword on sword sort of fight action to kind of balance.
Maybe, but then we did get to see the Wild Hunt at the end. So
that was cool as fuck.
Yeah.
But no, overall it was enjoyable. I watched Hawkeye, which I liked as well.
I'm only halfway through that. Just before we. So I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really excited to watch all of it. I just need to wait for Kate to want to watch it at the same time.
Of course. It's good. I literally banged it all out in a day yesterday. And if you're halfway through, it's really well cast. I'm a big Haley Steinfeld fan ever since True Grit. So I'll watch her in anything. And she's a really good voice actress.
Kills it. She's really funny in it.
Yeah, she's very charming. I mean, she's a good voice actress as well. She does the voice of Gwen Stacy in Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, no shit. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Have you seen Santorini?
Santorini? I haven't, mate. I've heard dreadful things, but I haven't actually watched it.
Really? I'm really enjoying it. I'm like halfway through. I think it's amazing. So funny.
It's like they're trying to find a new center or something like that. I heard
so basically... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Explain the plot.
Seth Rogen is Santa, and he's, at the end of his tenure. I think he's like the 16th Santa Claus or whatever they've had. And he's named his like successor. And then his successor gets pinched by Jeff Bezos to go work at Amazon instead. And and Sarah Silverman was his successor's like number 2 in his current department before he leaves. So she's like kind of fucked over and sandbagged by the whole thing as well. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to crack this old white man's club, this old boys club. I'm going to be like the first female Santa. And, it's her trying to kind of suck some corporate dick and kind of like play the game and like get Santa on the board behind us so that she can be the new Santa Claus. And there are I'm only on like episode 4, I think, but it's been fucking hilarious. It's so good.
Okay. I'll check that out. Did you manage to watch Arcane at all?
Nah, not yet. The whole time Kate was away, I was either very focused dog sitting or Otis was asleep and I was just monged out on can oil. I can't even tell you what I watched. I watched like Jungle Cruise and Encanto, and I had to watch Encanto a second time because I was just so fucked.
I watched a lot of movies since I've been here. So I watched new James Bond movie. Don't know if you've seen that yet. No Time to Die.
Nah, but I've never been a James Bond fan.
Great movie for 2 hours, and then I hated the ending. saw The Matrix Resurrections. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that yet on HBO Max.
I was actually on. All right. No, well, we'll get around to that this weekend, right?
I'm curious to see your thoughts.
Sure, it's going to be shit. I don't care. There's one good Matrix movie, and then there are other Matrix movies.
This
and
is
I'm
true.
okay with that. I can live in that world.
It'll be interesting to see what you think of it after you've seen it. Don't Look Up. I thought the metaphor was a bit too on the nose. Like, it was a little banging you over the head with it. But what I liked about it, I liked the end. I thought the last 20 minutes of it made it kind of feel like it's a bit more of kind of like a Doctor Strangelove successor kind of thing, which I appreciated. And I love the 22,000 years later with the Bronterak.
Yeah. That was we fucking loved that scene when they were like, "Don't say how I die." And I go, "How do I die? You get killed by a Bronterak. We don't know what it is." And like me and Kay were both like, "That is such a funny scene, but interesting." And then you get the call back at the end. We're like, "Yep, saw that coming."
Yeah,
what a great fucking movie. Big Adam McKay fan.
I really liked the billionaire character as well. I thought Mark Rylance nailed that one. It's fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. I'm just going to go outside for a moment.
Yeah, I just love that little guy. Like, "I love you. Can I ask you a question?" No, walks off.
The only thing I didn't, and I thought Meryl Streep was good as this kind of like Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump amalgamation president, was just fucking brilliant. But I didn't think Leo landed it as well as I was expecting. I just thought some of the story beats were a bit too like, I'm really sorry, if a literal comet was going to hit the Earth, people would react differently.
I really don't think they would. I think it's a pretty good representation of what the people trying to give the information out would be like. You know, what the media would be like, what the public would be like, what the government would be like. As a species, we mishandle just about fucking everything. So I think it's pretty pathetic. I think that's exactly what a real meteor disaster would be like.
The only thing I think
global warming.
The difference, though, is that I think people can understand very rudimentary things. So the idea of like, in the same way as like when bad events happen that are very visual, people have the ability to band together around it. But it's the stuff that you don't necessarily see that's the hardest to convince. You know, for example, you hear an earthquake erupts in Tahiti or something like that, you're going to understand and see pictures and it's devastating. But trying to explain the concept of like famine, if it kills the same amount of people in the same area, doesn't have the same kind of visual representation. I always feel the issue with global warming is that there isn't this big rock that you know is going to hit. It's this kind of like, you don't quite see it, but it's there, but it isn't there. And that's what kind of...
I don't know. This is scientists have been talking about it since like the 19th century. And industrialists were talking about it since the 19th century. This is something that's been drummed into me since I was a small fucking child. I mean, do you remember Captain Planet?
I don't remember Captain Planet.
We've all been very, very aware of the fact that this has been like an inevitable thing coming. And the only real question is, does the world end within our lifetime? Or are we going to be lucky enough that it's just our kids that are going to have to watch the world end? And also, like, I don't know, it really depends on what you pay attention to. Do you know that, I think it was in like the mid-noughties, it might have been a little later than that, there was a really severe cold snap in England, and the cold weather gets greenhouse gases to basically converge. So they will actually converge over cold spots over the planet. So it was going to open up a hole so large in the ozone layer that it would have made, the UK almost immediately unlivable in direct sunlight. Everyone would just have to scutter around indoors all the fucking time. And like, this is something I knew about. This is something I was, I was doing my F-gas at the time, handling like refrigerant gases and everything, hydrocarbon and fluorocarbons, real nasty shit. And they're telling us this shit. And like, you talk to other people about it and they're like, "Oh, well, it didn't happen then, did it?" Like, no, it's not like an asteroid almost hit us. It's like the asteroid bounced off of us and it's going to hit us again. And we're like, nah, fuck it, it'll be fine. Like we're absolutely fine. It won't be an issue. We've always known that these were problems. And the worst part of it is that most of what we get told about being carbon neutral and recycling and avoiding plastics and stuff, it wouldn't matter what we did. It's the major corporations. I think something like 90% of the pollution is created by like sort of 3% of kind of corporate bodies. I don't know what I'm sorry, I shouldn't throw numbers out. I haven't got it in front of me. I've got no idea. It's something like that. I am very much throwing shit up against the wall with that though. The point is that it's more like we need to change cultural things we do, and we're not doing it. And the small changes that people are being fought so hard against trying to make like, are barely gonna, curve off how bad this is gonna be. We really need to be doing so much more, and we're not fucking doing it. So for me, like, I don't understand where people are kind of like compartmentalizing it and kind of, like you're saying, like there's no tangible, obvious like threat. There's no countdown. There's no D-Day. There's no ETA or whatever. So like, is it real? But I've been terrified of global warming my entire life.
All of those points I understand. The only thing I'd say, let's say connecting it to the metaphor they're doing for the movie, is let's say it was this. Let's say the whole thing that they were struggling with wasn't so much getting people to believe it. The issue is that they present them with this news and everybody has got no preparation for it. So you can still have the stupid idea to try and drill the comet, ineptitude in the government, all the rest. But the idea being kind of like, well, hey, look, the problem is that we all knew that an asteroid could hit. No one actually thought about ever trying to actually preemptively do something about it. And now it's happened and you're all scrambling around like idiots. And I feel that that's because one of the issues I feel with global warming is that, and when I say it's like the hole in the ozone, it's still something that you can't physically see. So there's always that thing about like, it's hard to maybe get people to convince themselves on something that's subtle. So, but if you get a big issue that's a result of global warming, then people panic and they start going, "Oh fuck! Well, this just happened, and now we've got to fix it. And what the fuck do we do?" Global warming is a problem, man. The only thing that, in reality, even people that argue with it, I think a lot of the argument is more about causality, but it doesn't change the fact that like shit's happening, and none of it, even if you don't look at the global warming side, like none of this is good. Like half the Amazon rainforest isn't going to be there in 20 years. That's not a good thing. Like we don't know what that has a big effect over everything. Like, and we don't quite understand that. But who knows? Maybe we all die from COVID or a response to COVID, and this is the planet's way of like getting rid of a whole bunch of useless wankers.
I mean, even like, with the asteroid, I think it did kind of work well because they're like, oh yeah, but like when it hits, like who's fucked and how fucked are they? And it's like, no, everyone's fucked. Like, no, who's fucked and how fucked are they? It's like with global warming, people are like, oh, well, I don't mind if like, the world gets a little warmer. It's like, no, that's not the way it works. Like you make the Atlantic colder by enough degrees, and it's going to stop the thermodynamics. So the Gulf of Mexico won't be a thing anymore. So then Northern Europe will be in an ice age. And, it's so fucked, like, because no one really knows, like 1000%. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. The planet's gone through a series of ice ages. Shit like this is always going to be a threat. We've just exacerbated it to the point that it's like, shit, you can almost see it coming now.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you.
I think it's terrifying.
One of the other reasons it's an issue, though, man, is that people live about 80 years, and a lot of the time, people will think if it's not going to be a direct issue in my lifetime, why should I care about it? That's a big problem to try and get overcome.
Oh yeah, but like our generation now are the ones that very well could see the end of the world. So it's like, yeah, there are people in power, people with the wealth, the means, the influence that probably do fall in that bracket. But I think, to be honest, if you're alive today and you're like younger than 70, especially if you're like living that good fucking life, there's a real good fucking chance you're going to see another 40 years, and it really could happen in the next 40 years. So
Kind of
I
works out
think
well.
most people are almost all pushed out now.
Well, listen, man, the only thing I would say is that does fill me with hope is every generation becomes a little bit more aware of different things and less aware of other things. But climate change is one that I think give it. The problem is what's the D-Day? It's like we're 7 years away from it being irreversible, and we're probably 20 years away from having a voting demographic and politicians that are really conscious about this in more than just a platonic get votes kind of way.
Truthfully, we're probably already past irreversible.
The planet's
like there is a lot to suggest we're past irreversible for what we can live through and what we can deal with. Like we're almost so many different opinions. It varies in so many different ways. I gotta be honest, the way I see it is like we're almost at the point where it's like fuck putting restrictions on it. Let's just have as many fucking people burning as many fucking fossil fuels as possible, that we, just keep like fucking buying lottery tickets in the hope that one of them's a winner, and we get like, serviceable interstellar travel and the ability to, habitate other worlds. Just, I kind of think we might already be past the tipping point, and it's like, fuck it. Let's just see if we can crack out 2 or 3 more Elon Musks and make some progress scientifically.
Well, you touch on an interesting point, because there's an argument of like, do you think that the population needs to be reduced in order to be more manageable? Or do you say that every single human born is your potential genius that fixes all of the problems and comes up with the technology that, turns things back? Is that kind of interesting sort of balance?
Well, historically, as a species, we've always played the numbers game, and we're the apex predator on this planet. Not that that's saying much, but it's worked for us.
I don't know, mate. I don't think tiger fucks up a man.
Yep, one tiger fucks up one man in a tiger-friendly habitat.
This is true.
Anything with lockable doors, buildings, guns, and so on. Fuck that tiger, bro. Yeah, there's a reason you don't have fights with tigers very often in popular areas. I've got to be honest, like I'm pretty sure that any time a tiger gets into like an actual built-up area or any kind of like big cat or predator or anything like that, I reckon about 10% of those I personally have seen online, because I reckon most of those find their way online, because it doesn't really happen that often. Like even with the quarantine with COVID, less transport, less noise, you start to see some wild animals kind of encroaching in towns a little bit. But pretty much all of them were like, oh, this was a fucking mistake. I don't know what I'm doing in the town right now. I shouldn't be here.
Dude, isn't there that area of India where like a massive number of people die from tiger every single year?
They do get tiger attacks. They do get a lot of tiger attacks, but it tends to be in like more rural kind of areas. It's not like...
There's one area that famously gets loads. There's something as they actually have a theory that there might be something that makes the tigers hyper aggressive in that area. I don't know if maybe their territory was encroached on or something like that. But yeah, people get killed by tigers there. Like for an endangered species, an impressive number of people die from tigers there.
Yeah. I mean, the main reason they're an endangered species is because they need so much fucking area. They need so much territory. So yeah, I guess, especially if you're talking about a place like India where they have such a large population that, they can get like those little pockets of like huge like influx and so on like a bigger scale than you would have in like most traditional kind of countries and economies. I could see there being like more kind of tiger displacement, or just like prey displacement, which is going to inevitably lead to tiger displacement.
Yeah.
Could be fucking anything. But yeah, man, like tiger's one of those things where it's like, if they were pack animals and if they were like, just like maybe not smarter, but like had like a greater capacity for kind of communication and organization, then yeah, fucking we would have a big fucking problem with tigers. In fact, I think we probably would have made a concerted effort to wipe out tigers. We would treat them like alien scum, get off the planet.
Yeah,
that's what they say about tiger. How high can a tiger jump? However high a tiger needs. Like they are so fucking freakishly strong.
Yeah. But what do you think wins between a tiger and a lion? Because tigers tend to be bigger, but lions know how to fight more because they fight with each other as cubs.
Yeah, well, one-on-one, I'd say a tiger, but you're unlikely to get a lion one-on-one.
This is true.
So I'd say the lions.
Safety in numbers. On that note, mate, I think we should wrap it up. I've got to get the fire going, get the house a little warm, and then cook some dinner.
Fair enough, bro. All right. Let's do another bullshit episode next week.
Do that next week, mate. Have a really good New Year's if I don't speak to you beforehand. And speak next week. Take care.
Happy New Year's, YouTube.
Guys, thanks for watching.
Year's,
like and
Laurie.
subscribe.
Happy New
By
Year's,
Dave,
guys.
by Laurie, by Trifo. Shout out to Tom Reacts channel. Peace out, guys.